Hey everyone, so today we have someone joining in from Dublin, Ireland, and yeah, he wants to prep for coding interviews. Do you want to give a quick background of yourself and where you're from and maybe like what companies you work for or if you're a student and then also why you're doing lead code, how many lead code questions is your algorithmic journey kind of thing?
Yeah, my name is Eric, and I graduated 2 years ago with a computer science degree from Dublin City University. I've been working for the same company that I've done my internships for in third year, and I've just basically just worked from there. And I'm just sort of in the area of job searching with doing like grinding lead code questions. Yeah, and that's basically it. I've just been working for the same company. I work for like a Dublin-based company. I doubt any of you wouldn't know them, so.
Yeah.
Um, I know. Yeah, that's
So
basically it.
people are doing lead code even in Dublin. They're making y'all do lead code
Yeah,
too.
that's something I should probably mention. The standard for entry is a lot lower over here than it is in the States.
What do you mean standard? Sorry, you cut out. Okay, you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I cut out there.
Okay, yeah. Like, what do you mean by
Yeah,
standard? As in, like, they're not gonna ask you lead code hard or lead code medium?
yeah, no, they would ask medium, but a lot of the companies won't ask. Like a lot of the interviews I've done so far, they're not lead code based questions. They're usually it's usually just more so like you're given a hacker rank like full stack app, and you just sort of have to debug. A lot of the big companies though would do still do lead code, but even then they wouldn't ask as hard as questions as they would over in the States.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, honestly, lead code style question, I'm not a big fan of it, anyways. But people are asking it. People want to know how to get better at it. That's why I make sort of this content. But I try to mix it up. But like, what companies are in Dublin? I know like a ton of companies are in Dublin these days, right? Like I think they did something where they cut out all the tax or something. Now all these companies are starting to build offices there. I think that's what
Yeah, yeah,
happened.
legit. All the big like companies are over here. So yeah, and it's
What are you aiming for? Like which companies? You want to work in Fang or do you want to work in mid-size startup? Like what's the ecosystem there and where do you want to work?
um, I realistically I don't mind once the like the growth opportunities are good enough, and the tech like the tools and technology that I'm working on are interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, but mainly like yeah, I work for a small startup at the moment, so maybe I would like to break out into a more bigger company than currently.
Yeah. Let's see. What's it called? What's my other question? Yeah. Damn, I had another question. So you want to break into sort of like the bigger companies? Um, how many questions have you done so far?
Yeah, I only started about like 2 months ago. Like I think I was just checking in April 16th, and I've been grinding a lot. I've done like 200 and I think 97 so far.
Nice.
Um, but like 10% of those I reckon aren't like my own submissions. Like
I see.
when I started off, I've gotten the habit of just like uploading like ChatGPT solutions that I couldn't find. But yeah, I've learned that it's better off not to do that. So if I don't understand the solution now, I'll move on and come back to it later. Like
I see. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember a question. Like, what's like the kind of salaries that you expect out there? Like, if I work at a startup all the way to working at a FANG company, I was just curious how it compares to like
yeah,
Canada and the U.S.
the salaries are much less. Obviously, the cost of living is way lower over here.
Hmm.
Than in California, at least the salaries are much lower.
Yep.
So like for a FANG company, like with 2 years of experience, total compensation, you're probably looking at about like obviously it depends. Like obviously if you do really well, you can get like higher. But from what I've seen and from the interviews I've been doing, it's like it ranges from around like 90 to 120K for like 2 years of experience. That's like
One
upper
hundred
end.
ninety or 90 to one hundred
No,
twenty
not
euros.
nine.
Sorry.
90 to 120K like total comp. That includes like bonus and stocks.
What like you get paid in euros or what? Like
Yeah,
what's the
euros.
okay
That's
euros?
slightly stronger than dollars. I'm not sure what that is
Okay,
like
that's
compared to like
actually really good. How much is like a one bedroom apartment?
in Dublin. It actually is quite expensive over here. I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but it's yeah, it is in the city center. It is quite expensive. I'm pretty sure
How
it's like top three most expensive in Europe.
how much is houses? How much is I want to buy like three bedroom house. I have three kids. How much am I paying for a house?
Yeah, the housing market in Dublin especially is very expensive. Like like very like for like a 3 bedroom house, like probably it depends. Obviously, it depends where you live. But it can range from like 450 to like 650,000.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's not terrible as like as the U.S., but it's just interesting because the cost of living is high, but then like there's you just said the cost of living is lower, but then all of a sudden
Yeah,
you
the
bring.
cost of living overall is lower, but we have a housing crisis over here. So
I
the like
see.
houses and just like rent is extremely high in comparison to other European cities.
Yeah, they
Like if
got
you
like
wanna,
housing crisis everywhere at this point.
yeah, they do, to be fair.
Let me. What's it called? How much is it to go out for food?
Yeah, like it's probably like a similar price. It's like I don't know if you wanna like go sit down for a meal. Like if you're not going to like a big fancy ass restaurant, it's probably like 50 quid, maybe 60 quid. If you don't drink alcohol, but if you drink alcohol, it's going to be more, obviously.
What's 60 quid? Like euros?
Oh, 60 euro, yeah.
Wow, that's actually expensive. That's actually crazy. Yeah, I don't know. It's I mean
No,
it's similar to
even cheaper. But
U.S.
if you're going to like a more casual place, it'll probably be like 30 euro.
30 euros just to eat. Damn. Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's just that's kind of the same prices out here. Honestly, little bit. Like it's actually pretty close.
And
Yeah.
how much is a coffee over there? Like over here, it's
Coffee.
like
Okay. $5 USD.
five.
It depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're getting like a fancy latte
Latte.
over here,
$5
it's
latte.
probably yeah, it's around the same over here. It's like 450 over here.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's like $5, $6. If you go
I thought
to,
it was way more in California. I thought it was like $8.
it
Or is that more?
depends. It
Are
depends.
you in
If
the
you,
Bay Area or?
yeah, I'm in the Bay Area. Like I just got
Oh,
one for
really? Oh,
450, and the one I'm drinking 450. Like, but if I go to Starbucks, like $6.
yeah.
Um,
Starbucks is trash anyway.
yeah. Cool. All right. Nice understanding how life is over there. It's super similar. I mean, doesn't really matter. We're in different areas of the world, and we're both still doing leak code, so it's pretty funny. Um, I'm gonna send you. That's what you realize when you do this channel. Is like everyone's joining in from different parts of the world, but everyone's kind of doing the same thing. It's not like there's no
Yeah, yeah.
real difference that I'm in Canada or in the U.S. like, or you're in Ireland. But I guess like all these companies operate heavily in Ireland. Anyways, I sent you the link. All right.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
So we're gonna start off. I'm gonna pick from my list. You're good. You done 297 questions, right?
Yeah, give or take. Again, not all of those solutions are mine, so around 270ish would probably be more close.
270-ish. How many easies, mediums, and hards?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, to be honest. I think I have like 20 hards done, and then like 70 easies. Then the rest would be mediums.
Yeah. Like when you went to school, were you pretty good at those algorithmic classes, or it just went over your head and you just couldn't understand it? Like, were you pretty serious?
I was really bad. Yeah, like we done data structure and algorithms in second year, and then like third and fourth year was more like design based stuff that I done better in. So like when I had to go over 2 months ago, it took a while for it to click, but once it does click, it like you learn a lot faster.
Yeah.
That's just the thing with programming. Everyone says it like it can take ages to learn something, but then once it clicks, it just sort of clicks, you know.
Yeah, and you grow exponentially too. Like you can just keep getting real good. Okay, I'm gonna post in the first question here. Yeah, thanks for taking the time out. I know it's late for you. We're gonna go through this first question. We're gonna try to go through. It ends in 40 minutes, so we can get through one or two questions depending how
Yeah.
fast you get to them. But the first question is we're going to be given an integer array of numbers. We essentially want to move all the zeros to the very back of it while maintaining the relative order of the numbers in the array. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Given an integer array, maintain the relative order. So you must do it in place. Okay, that makes things harder. While maintaining the relative order. My first sort of solution is to okay. So basically, okay, nums.length and nums can range from this. Okay. Move all zeros to the end of it will maintain the relative order of the non-zero. And can this array, will it have duplicates, or is each number will be unique?
It it could have duplicates. It could
Okay.
all be ones in here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And I like obviously these are sort of already sorted, so like can an array be given something like this as well?
An array that can come in already sorted. Yes.
No, but can the array be of any order essentially? It like
Yeah, it could be any order. It could the
any order. Yeah,
values in
yeah.
it are. We don't we all we want to do is move all the zeros to the end and maintain the relative order, but the order of those elements could be in random order.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, my first I'm just brainstorming here. Approach would to have an initial run to keep track of yeah, my first approach would so you must do it in place. So it says this you must do it in place, but can I use a data like can I like use just a separate array to store, or can I not use any extra space?
What would be your extra space solution? Let's
It
just
would
discuss
to
it.
it would to essentially for every non-zero element I see, I will just store the index. I will just store the value of it essentially. Um, and what I will do is so when we go through, let's just say this input here. Oh, sorry, this input here. Let's just put it down here. I will keep track of each zero number. So then when we see it, since we're keeping track of it, it doesn't necessarily matter what we see. What we see here. So we go through it first, yeah, and then we keep track of all of the non-zero integers. So then when we go through it again, we'll essentially just store on each index. We will store. Yeah, this will be a queue then actually. So on each index, we'll pop left from here and put it inside of. Just not put it inside, but change the value of that current index with what this is. So we pop left from here, which is 1, and then we pop left from here, it'll be 3, and then we keep popping left till it's empty, then it'll be 12, and then when that's empty, we'll just put everything else to 0. We'll change everything to 0, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when it's empty, you just put zeros.
Yeah.
Until like it meets the solution. Okay, I mean, go code it up quickly, and then we'll figure out a more optimal. We'll investigate it. It's a good first pass, but yeah, just code it up. Let's just see.
What's this given as your website? We also want to keep track of the length. So for num and nums q.append num, and then we have it here. So this will essentially build up our array of non-zero values. And then what we want to do now is, I don't think we, for index in range. Now we just want to essentially change every value that's in num. So we want to say we want to say sorry, I'm using JavaScript syntax here.
Mixing back and forth.
Between between work, because I work mainly JavaScript and work. I think that will work, and then we just want to return nums, obviously. Q equals C. So for num and nums, if num does not equal 0, Q to append num. Range and F Q greater than 0.
Okay, walk me through line by line.
Yeah, so we have the length of nums, and then we're just initializing our queue. So what this sort of loop does is we're just essentially, for every number that isn't equal to 0, we're just going to add it to the queue. So that will essentially build up our array to look something like this: 1, 3, 12. And then what this one does for index in the range of this, we'll check if the queue is greater than 0. So basically we're just checking if there's a value within that queue, then we'll pop from that queue and change that index, that current index of the queue, of the value, to the whatever was on the left of the queue, and then otherwise we'll make that that value 0 because there's no more values left.
Okay, run some tests on it.
Yeah. Let's start off with this one first. How do I run?
Command enter or the green button in the top
I'll
left.
have to do something like this, print ones.
Okay. What's your time and space complexity?
Yeah, the time complexity is O of n. Well, we're going through n twice, but obviously we can just rationalize it down to O of n, and then since we're using extra space of O of n as well, worst case. But given that it's in place, I think there's probably a solution that could be done without using any extra space.
Okay, so you said O of n time, O of n space?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can we look for a way to do this in O of n space and time? Can we do in O of 1 space?
Yeah, I definitely think we can, especially given the fact that it's asking to do it in place. Can I just think for a couple of minutes first?
Go ahead and think.
Yeah, I think I have a solution now. Yeah. Or do I?
What are you thinking?
I was thinking of to keep track of the current index, essentially, of where we want to put a non-zero value. So for here, we'll just say the current index will equal 0. So every time we see a non-zero value, we'll increment this. So when we see 0, we add this to the end, and then when we see the 1, we move here and move this up 1. But my edge case I was thinking is, how do we handle this 12 when we make the swap between the 0 and the 12?
Okay, so we're gonna have a current one right here on 24, and we're gonna have another pointer kind of moving through the array. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, something similar to that.
Okay, yeah. Keep exploring. Seems like it's like you're going the right direction.
Okay, another solution is every time we see a 0, we want to find the next non-zero value, and we just make the swap there and move on. So we have a 0 here, and we mark this index, and we'll move forward until we see a non-zero value, and we make the swap. So then this will become 1 0. Then we move on again from here until we find a non-zero value and make the swap here. So this becomes 3. Then we move here, and we continue traverse until we see non-zero empty and make it like that. Is
Like, what would be the runtime of that solution?
yeah. So since we're so we go here. Yeah, worst case that could be n squared actually, because we're like the last value could always be at the end of the array, so we'd be constantly searching.
Mm-hmm.
Or not necessarily actually. Could it be O of n? Yeah, it could be O of n, because when we come here with when we make this the swap, we can set the new. Yeah, we'll keep track of. It'll be 2 pointers. We'll keep track of the current index to change, and our current index of where we are in the array. So when we make the swap, we will increment the. So right here, let's just say our pointer is pointing at this 0 here, and we have, let's just say, this. When we make that swap, we will also have a pointer pointing at this 1 here. So then when we make that swap, we'll set this to 1 and we'll set this to 0, but now we set the current index to here. So then we can continue moving up until we find that. So then when we set this to find this, we'll set this to 1 and we'll set the current index to here. Sorry, I mean, we set this to 1 and then we set the current index to here, and then that would make it O of n while not using any extra space. Does that make sense, or am I?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, so we're going to keep track of
Let's do it on a small case like this.
Yeah, so we'll keep track of yeah, let me take this. Keep track of 2 pointers. So the first pointer will be the index of the 0 that we want to change, and the second pointer will be the
Just mark it like this, and then move it.
Yeah. So the first pointer will be at the first 0, the 0 that we want to change, and then next index will be the sort of like n for next will be the pointer that we're essentially looking for a non-empty 1, a non-zero value. So when we come to this 1, we notice that it's a non-zero value, so we'll make the swap there. And when we make that swap, we'll set this pointer here to whatever that pointer was. So we'll move that up, and we'll set this to basically +1 of that pointer. And then now that we know that this is the value that we want to change, we'll keep iterating this until we see a non-zero value. So we see that it's here. So we'll set this to 3, and then this to 0. And then essentially what we'll do here actually is keep iterating until we see a 0 again. So we have a 0 here, and then this will be, oh, see, that's O of n squared. This is tricky, man.
I think that's like promising right there. And let me just walk through that. So we have 0, 1, 0, 3, 4. Let's go. So we station C at or Z at like the next 0, right? And we just have a pointer.
Yeah.
Every time we see it, we just swap 1. 0. You move this up, and then you just keep moving. C4, swap. Move this up. Right? Just swap
Yeah.
every time you see.
You see a non-zero value. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But is that O of n still? Oh, it's we're only going through each. Yeah, we're only going through each item in the array once. So yeah, that's O of n actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe go try to implement that.
Yeah, yeah. So we need a value for
Google Productions, thank you.
So the
Appreciate
best way
you.
that I think of approaching this would be to have obviously the pointer for the 0 we want to change, and essentially the first pointer will be the pointer after that. So instead of using, so how will I? So yeah, I'm just gonna have cur next equals 0, 0. Oh, that's, yeah. So what actually is just going to be cur equals. Essentially, I'm just going to continue iterating the current value if it doesn't equal 0. So I'm just going to say if nums of cur does not equal 0, just continue essentially. And so when this point hits a 0, then we know that we're currently at a 0. So then we'll set a second pointer to keep iterating until we see a non-empty 0. So we'll have something like next equals.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So what?
I think we can move on to the next question. I think you got the gist of that question.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Let's move on to this one. Because I want to get through 2 questions. Breadth over depth.
Yeah, that's no rush.
Breadth over depth.
That's no rush.
Yeah. Let me fix this up quick. So we're gonna. Sorry. Let me fix this up. So we're gonna be given an m by n grid, right? Initialized with 3 possible values. You're gonna have -1 equals a wall or an obstacle. It's gonna exactly look like this. Let me fix up the input. Yo, Paul, what's up? Oh, it's kind of tweaked. Something like this. This is so. Well, we're gonna be given a grid like this. So you could see there's different values in here. There's -1, that means it's a wall.
Yeah.
There's 0, that means it's a gate. And infinity means it's an empty room. That means there's nothing there. So what we need to do is we need to fill out pretty much the distance for each room to the nearest gate. So it's the answer is going to be like this. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Wait. Oh shoot. I'm missing some of the output. Let me fix this. It's kind of annoying. So this is the answer, and I'm gonna quickly explain why this is the answer. So these are gates, right? This means it's like a wall. or sorry, -1 is like a wall that you
A
can't
wall, yeah.
get to. Gates is like an exit. So y is, dude, this is so, I need to like left align this. So it's just easier for you. Sorry, chat. Okay, this is better now. Okay, so we essentially just need to fill it out. So why is this top left 3? Well, it's because the closest gate is 3 away, 3 cells away, right? You can see the
Yeah.
closest cell is 0, or you can't pass through walls. It's an obstacle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's 4 away, and this one's 3 away, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This one's 4 away, right? And then you see this one's the closest one is 2 away, 1, 2. But then when you get to this one, the closest one is actually 2 away because this is gate. So basically,
Yeah.
for each infinity cell, we just need to answer the question: what is the closest gate to it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think I I have a decent idea of how to. Obviously, we're gonna need to use a search algorithm, and since it's shortest and they're non-weighted, I think breadth first searches are probably best approach for now. I was looking at it for a while, and I was confused on what was the best approach of doing this, of where to start essentially the search. But I think we don't want to use a breadth first search approach on each sort of time we see infinite. So, and since we're looking for where are we looking for? A gate, is it? Fill each empty room with the nearest, to the nearest gate. So the best approach would actually be to use a queue, but add each 0 to the queue. So obviously, when we find a 0, we'll add the roll call, and sort of it'll obviously be the distance would start off at 0, and then we'll use that sort of queue to find all of the infinites that are adjacent to it and add that in, and just add a +1. And then that way we won't need to essentially perform a breadth first search on each time we see infinite. And so when we see a new infinite within the grid, we just need the +1 of what the previous value was essentially. And we won't need to use any form of extra space. We can just essentially update the previous array that was. We can just update the grid that was given to us. And if essentially that way we can prevent like the breadth first search from adding previous values from preventing an infinite loop from happening that way, if that makes sense.
Okay, you're gonna start at 0 and 0. Or sorry, wait. Could you just quickly repeat it again?
Yeah. So I'll take down some notes actually. So we'll iterate through the array with
Yeah.
a queue, and for each 0 we add we append it to the queue. And then after we do that iteration, we begin a breadth first search algorithm of the elements that we found in the queue. And essentially, we'll add the row, the column, and then the step. But the distance will essentially start at 0. And for every time we see we'll essentially look for all of the adjacent rows and columns. So row +1, row -1, call +1, call -1, etc. And every time we see an infinite, we'll essentially add that to the queue, and then this +1. So for example, for this one, we'll see that this is here. Then we'll just add that to the queue, and we'll change this in the grid to 1. So that's essentially the distance from this to here.
I see.
And then it says, look, it should be filled with infinity. That way, we don't need to fill it with infinity because it's already filled with infinity in the grid.
Okay. Yeah. Seems valid. Go ahead and try it out.
Okay, cool. Why is that happening? It seems that it's like registering my code as a comment.
Let's finish this off right here. There you go.
Okay, cool, thanks. What is it? Just find distances. I always forget to spell Q. Oh yeah, I'm doing this wrong. Why is that an error? Oh yeah, it's just 0. And then, so that's essentially adding all of the gates into the queue essentially. So after we add them into the queue, we just want to perform the breadth first search. So then we have row call. And we want to get the candidate row, the neighbors essentially. So we'll do this. Just copy this. So these are what this is doing is essentially just getting the neighbors of all the rows and columns, and we want to essentially iterate through this and validate each neighbor row and neighbor column to make sure that they're what we want. And the first way of doing that, is to make sure that are actually within the grid sort of parameter. So we want to check that they're not out of bounds essentially. So I'll do that now. How do I check for infinity? Is it just like float infinity like that, James? Or
Yeah.
okay. Let me just see. So yeah, what I'm doing here is just checking that if it's not out of bounds.
I'll create a variable right here called. Just use that
cool,
variable
thanks.
line 27.
Okay, sound thanks. So yeah, I think we can just, since it's a breadth first search algorithm, essentially the first infinite item we see in the grid will be the shortest distance to it. So we can essentially just straight up append it to the and we also want to prevent the infinite loop, as I was saying earlier. So we want to change that distance here, so that this way we don't need to keep track of a set or anything. We can just essentially update the grid itself equals this plus 1. So if 0 less than equal neighbor row less than the grid or not 0, that should continue. This plus 1, so that should end it. Sorry, I'm just going through here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Grid neighbor on equals this plus 1. I think that's a close enough solution. I'm just going over it to make sure I didn't miss
Yeah.
anything.
Walk me through line by line.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through on this example here. So what this essentially does is just getting all of the gates, the gates within the gates within the grid. So on this approach, after doing that, the queue should look something like this. So this is row 0, column 2. So and that's tree 1. Sorry, that's tree 0. Sorry. So yeah, so after this approach here, it should look like this. And then when we run the breadth first search algorithm, we will pop this first. So this will be our initial row, column, and distance. So we're looking for the neighbors here. Wait, this is actually infinity first. So we're looking for the neighbors here, and
Yeah.
it'll check both of these values. But since this is -1, it'll essentially continue. It won't check that, and then it'll check this. So since this is infinity, it'll append that row and column to the list, and then that distance +1, and it'll change this to 1. So now our queue looks something like this. So that was 2, 0. So our queue will look something like that, and then it runs it on this approach here. So up here we have this. It'll essentially change this and this to 1, and it'll add those to the queue, and then it'll go back to what we had here, and it'll change this to 2 essentially, and then it'll check this one here, and it'll change both of these to 2, and then this will become 3, and then this will become 3, and this will become 4. And I think that's what we have down here.
I see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, run it on a few test cases. Run it on the test case, like build the test case and run it and assert that it works.
Yeah, sure. Let me just say it. I pasted the wrong thing. We have infer. And this was actually 0. That was the initial test case, wasn't it? This was infinite as well. Yeah. You missed the oh yeah, commas. Let's try that now. 3 minus 1 0 1 2 2 1 minus 1 1 minus 2.
Print it like you should print it line by line so it's easier.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'll just do something like this. Yeah, that seemed to work. Do you want me to try more test cases or?
No, I think that's fine. We're coming out of time.
Okay, cool.
Cool. How do you think you did? How was that experience?
Yeah, no, that was cool. I think my intuition on the first one was a bit slow. I think that happens from a lot, like probably more often than it should. I feel like with those, I feel like the second question went well, but with those like algorithm heavy questions, like if you know the algorithm, once you see it, it's very easy to implement. But like with those like sliding windows or 2-pointer type questions, sometimes intuition. If your intuition's off, it can be hard to think of an initial solution, even if they're potentially easy.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, what would you give yourself rating? You passing yourself? I'll give mine after.
Yeah, It really depends on the interviewer. You can obviously have some interviewers which can be harsh, which wouldn't pass. But I say overall, I didn't do perfect, but I think I done decent enough.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit late over here, so I wasn't communicating the best either.
Yeah.
There's a few times, especially in the last question, where I was just coding large blocks without saying anything.
Yeah. Honestly, you did good. Definitely a pass. Um, the first question you gave the brute force solution. You're able to implement it. It worked. I asked you to um, I asked you to like improve on it, and you're able to improve on it, but it took a while, so couldn't give you like you still would pass the question. I would just yeah. I think that question is kind of a little bit tricky with that thing like, but you're going the right direction. No real problems on that. Honestly, I like your code. Your code is clean. It makes sense. You structure it well. Use good variable names. Um,
Yeah, the breadth first search question. It's I learned that from one of your videos, so it's similar to how you would approach.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like I like it maybe because yeah, it's similar to how I would do it. Honestly, the only main thing that I would say is when you're going through the when I tell you walk me through your code line by line, you started like highlighting the comments, but I want you to do is actually walk me through line by line by actually referencing your code. I need to know that that
Okay.
so it's like what's the code doing, and you have to walk me line by line the code here because
Yeah.
you're going on the comments showing me what it's doing, but how do I know that your code is doing what you say it does? You have to prove it
Yeah.
to me by walking line by line by the code. Otherwise, I think it's good. You read the question while you didn't jump into coding. You clarified the question and some edge cases. You had good clarifications. You're like, is it going to be sorted? Is it going to be like what happens if like you just had some good clarifications. That's always good. And then you walk me through the approach and runtimes before you implemented. Like solid job. Yeah, just keep like you're good enough to get a job. Just I would just keep working on more questions to just make sure that you don't get a question you've never seen before and get folded. But otherwise,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely that happens. Yeah. Sometimes I'll spend hours on an easy question, which shouldn't be happening there.
yeah, cool. Thanks for
No,
hopping on.
no. Thanks for having me, James. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
cool. All right, nice seeing you.
Cheers. Best of luck.
See you
See you.
around.
See you.